So, what can I say about Scarlet Nexus? Not much, to be honest, because I was so enthralled in with this game, I often forgot to write down what I was thinking for most of the time. So these things are kind of like the things that are at the top of my head in terms of dislikes and likes. So first of all, we're gonna start off something different. I'm gonna start off with the dislikes because there's so few compared to what I like. I'll get through them quicker. And I just feel like it should be, they should be in the front. So I'm going to start off with talking about how I disliked the one thing. I don't know if this could be just me being old and having bad reflexes, or it was a system issue. But I was playing the game on PC with a PS5 controller, and I felt like there was a slight half a second delay with the most commands, especially during combat. So, and that messed me up a lot for like dodging and stuff like that, using potions. Again, it could just be me being slow. So that's why I was like, still worthy of note. So, another thing that annoyed me was more of a nitpick because 90% of these dislikes are nitpicks because, like I said, I didn't really have much to dislike about the game. So, and I didn't want to just run a puff piece on it. So, another thing that kind of like disappointed me was the lack of character creator, because coming from God Eater and then Code Vein, I got used to the character creator, being the star of your own show, your own story, you being the star of the game. And unfortunately, that's not how that's not how it is for Scarlet Nexus. You have two characters to choose from, and neither of them are like any way to customize them outside of 3 cosmetics that you can choose for a range amount of people. Now, don't get me wrong, the cosmetics are pretty funny and good, but I still would like to make my own character. It's just for like emergency. So that's another one. Another thing that seemed kind of like wasted for me was the side quest. There was not a point at any given time during the entire game where I felt like I missed out on anything by not doing side quests. I did like 3 to 5, and I was like, well, this is boring and blah. But I just didn't have any. I didn't like them. I didn't find a reason to do them, and I honestly didn't want to do them, and I didn't. So like I said, I felt like I went through the whole game and felt like I didn't miss out on anything. So there's that. One thing I forgot to mention about in the neutral column, something that I noticed about this game was that this game has very little to no fan service at all. If you know what I'm talking about, from God Eater to Code Vein, there's literally 2 females in this game that even don't even touch fan service, but as close as you're gonna get, and that's Kyoka and Nodama. These 2 are the only thing you're gonna come close to, and they're both cloved up. Like, Nodama is probably the closest you're gonna get. And it's like, this used to be like a Bandai theme, but now it's like, it seems like they're trying to move away from it or something. I don't know, maybe it's just a developer's taste or whatnot. But it was weird to not see fan service in this game. The last thing that I would probably say was the character build-up. And what I mean by that was like, in most games they try, or like, yeah, for like most games they try and have you feel a connection to a specific character. That way, when something happens to them, you're all emotional, like, oh my god, how could they kill him? Oh my god, I like him so much. I felt like they were kind of forcing that on some of the characters early on in the story, because I immediately picked up on that these characters were probably going to be killed off, or something was going to happen to them. And sure enough, I was right. I'm not going to tell you which characters, but I'm pretty sure most people could pick up on it. Is that because it's kind of like, hey, feel something for this character, so that way when we kill them later off, or something happens to them later off, you get all emotional and shit. And I didn't really like that. It felt like it was forced, and they didn't take the time to actually build the character out. Instead, they wanted to rush the character's development so they could move on to something else. And that pretty much does it for dislikes. Not even gonna lie, like I wasn't kidding when I said I don't have much to complain about, and I'm one hell of a nitpicking ranter. So I'm gonna start off with the likes. The likes. All right. One of the best parts of the game for me is the combat. Now, like I said in my overview, some people seem to think that the combat is repetitive. And my answer to that is combat is repetitive in every single game because you're not ever gonna have non-repetitive combat because it requires hundreds and thousands of combat animations, which is never going to happen because it's not practical. Now, I like the combat because it's flashy, it's stylish, and it's unique. And I just like it. I groove with it. Outside of the dodging that I had issues with, which I digress. Was just probably just an issue with me and not really a game issue. I love the fact that every monster had a unique finisher, almost. Unless the monster was in the same category, every one of them had a unique fucking finisher. And the animations were just so much sex. And I never got tired of watching them. I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was pretty unique. It was pretty. I'm trying to think of a intelligent sounding word, but I just can't. It's great overall. It's just great. You have three different play styles, three or four. The male character has a melee play style, and then there's the range style from the other character, and they both use the same spells, the same kind of power, telekinesis, but one is melee and one is ranged. Now there are other ways to play based off of the brain map, which you see here, which is either a brain drive or brain field. Now these are things that you're going to find out, but you can also spec into these either way, or you can hit max level and probably fill out your entire brain map tree. So there's that. Overall, the combat was probably one of my favorite things about the game. Next to the soundtrack, which is fucking sex, the entirety of the OST of the game is just pure orgasmic, awesome orgy butt fuckery goodness.
Excuse me. The fuck did you just say?
Shut up. Anyways, coming from Biomutant, the sound design of this game is pretty fucking good. As I already stated, the music was top notch, and I felt like the music always fit the mood because it would change on a snap, but it still felt like the music worked for a lot of the issues, or not issues, worked for a lot of the situations. Bandai's usually good with their music, but this soundtrack was just fucking bumping. Like every time I played the game and every time something happened, I was just like, "Hey, let's go!" I was bumping to it. I was bopping. What the kids say? Bopping. Yeah, it's a bop, right? That's what the kids say. Okay, got it. I was bopping to the music every time, and I could listen to it all day, every day. Now, coming from Biomutant, like I said, nothing in my opinion, there was no issues. All the weapons sounded all good. The weapons sounded impactful. The power sounded good. The voice acting was cool. The narration wasn't overkill. Basically, everything that Biomutant did wrong, Scarlet Nexus did right. Now, the only problem I've heard people complain about in regards to the audio was actually the narrating, and that was because the game actually holds your hand through the entirety of the game. And they do this by constantly being like, "Hey, use my power. Hey, you do this. Hey, use it. Hey, you know you can use my power and this will happen. Hey, listen." And a lot of people seem like got annoyed by that, but after a while, I kind of just drowned it out because I knew what I was doing and I didn't really pay attention to it. So, like I said, overall the sound profile was a complete day and night versus Biomutant. Now, I will say in terms of like things that don't really affect the game's performance overall, they have these really cool features in the game, like brain message, which is basically just texting with your brain. But it also adds a lot of side story content, which I thought was pretty good in terms of character building and side lore. It really helps you understand some of these characters. Okay, now this is a neutral thing. Now this is going to be a like or hate kind of thing. If you like overly cinematic games, then you're going to be fine. But I mean like Final Fantasy 14 type of cinematics. Like you could be literally sitting in a cutscene for like 10 to 15 minutes probably, or a conversation if you do them all back to back. Because this game is very, very cinematic and very story driven. Now, at first, you're going to feel like you're completely lost about the story, and that's because they structure their story a specific way. They have intentional story gaps on how they do their stories. So if you're like me at the beginning, you're like, okay, well, what the fuck is this? What happens here? Like, why is this doing that? You know, have faith, and all answers will be answered by the time you finish your first character or both of them. All right? All right. Now, the story itself is pretty good. It does take a bit to get into it. It's kind of like a slow starting story right off the bat. Like I said, there are a lot of intentional structural story gaps from the start. You're gonna have to get used to it. I would say probably about maybe 10 hours, maybe sooner into the game, you'll understand the majority of the game, or you'll understand the majority of what's going on. Let's see, what else do we have? Visuals. The visual design of the game overall, from a lot of aspects, were pretty fucking solid. I mean, it's kind of like a Silent Hill meets Dark Souls meets anime. You know, the mobs were pretty fucking cool, creepy and scary at times. Because every time I saw one of those creepy bosses, I was like,
"That's a huge bitch."
And it's good. I dig it. Even though it's creepy and it's off-putting, I dig it. It's refreshing. It's very creative, very unique. I applaud the artist's creativity. I'm kind of worried, but you know, the things that they come up with is like, yeah, it is what it is. So I think that's pretty much everything I have to say about my my long review with the game. Because like I said, unfortunately, I just did not write down half the things that I was thinking because the game was that enjoyable for me. I mean, honestly, I think that's a good sign. It was a very fun game. I don't regret playing it at all. Now, some side notes: I did not buy the game, and I did not get I did not get a review copy. It was gifted to me by a friend as a late birthday present for $40 because I got it from a third-party website. The MSRP is actually $60, and would I buy it at MSRP at $60 USD? Yes, I would. Was it worth it? Yes, it was. How long is the game? I would say about one character storyline. That's counting half of the Bond missions. I didn't do any side quests. I pretty much just did main story and Bond episodes, and that took me about 25 hours. I did go through Kasane's story about halfway through because you do have to play both sides to get 100% of the story. But as I got like halfway through Kasane's story, I realized that honestly, I don't care for like the rest of the her point of view because a lot of it was kind of like duplicate scenes. There's like I would probably say there's like 60% like duplicate scenes, and then the rest is kind of like her point of view, which a lot of the time it was actually cool to see her perspective on things. Like, oh, so that's why this happened, you know. Oh, that's why they were there, you know. But like I said, I got bored of that after a while. I didn't finish Kasane's story. If you do, cool, but nah. But you know, that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't have much to say about it. I'm sorry. I know my opinion wasn't really thorough this time. and I apologize for that. But hopefully, the little bit of insight that I do have about the game helps someone decide whether or not they like the game or not, whether it's worth it or not. Like I said, personally, I think it's a great game. As of this recording, it is my game of the year for 2021. That could change when Tales of Arise comes out, because I will be playing that too. That I will try to keep a more thorough list of notes next time as we go through that game. As always, thank you for watching my shitty ass videos. I appreciate it. I'm trying to get better at them. It takes time. But if you have any questions or any comments about what I've said in this review, please leave them in the comment section below. Stop by my Twitch chat, or just hit me up on Twitter if you want to have a conversation about it, or just anything else game related. All right, thanks for watching, and peace.